All right, grown-ups, it's just our time. I love the babies, but to help you, I gotta speak my mind. This segment's here to help you grow with book reviews, lessons, and things you'll be glad to know. If your little one's restless or looking to play, send them to my other playlist. The read alouds there will brighten their day.
Hello, beautiful people. You have made it to week 52. For the last year, me, Miss Erica, the teacher lady, has given you so much insight and information with the only goal for us to raise more vibrant, more beautiful, more confident children. Every single week, I have given you a new topic. I have matched books to that topic. I have given you reviews on those books and let you know how to use them as a resource to raise healthier children. And I have closed out that week with a Teacher Lady Speaks episode, which is a professional development on that topic, using all of my experiences, background, and research to be able to help you. And all of that has brought us to week 52. Hi, I'm Miss Erica, the teacher lady. I am so many things. I am a mother, I am a wife, I am an educational leader, but today I am your friend and I am here to help you raise a family that feels good. I feel like parenting is really hard. I feel like teaching is super difficult. And I feel like so many people have an angle when it comes to helping. So for the last 52 weeks, my only angle has been to really provide information that I think, if applied correctly, could change the trajectory of your life. I really mean that. Now, today's Teacher Lady Speaks is different from all the other ones. This is my wild card episode. That means I've really looked at the questions I've been asked over the years. I've looked at what are the common questions for parents and for educators. Who needs the most help? What am I seeing the most on social media? And I put together a wild card episode of the Teacher Lady Speaks. There will be gems in this one. If you just listen, I'm feeling pretty and I look pretty. You do not need to sit here and watch me. You can put me in your headphones and go to the gym and go run. You can go wash the dishes. You take care of yourself however you need to, and encourage you to listen to what I have to say because it was designed intentionally. So this one is going to be a bit different. We're going to go through question by question. I'm going to provide answers and insights. And by the end of this, hopefully you've learned something new about yourself. Let's start with some background on me, my purpose, and my intent. Why did I start the Teacher Lady Show? Maybe people are struggling. Parents are suicidal and depressed and giving up on their children. Teachers are hating being in the classroom. They're feeling overworked and underpaid and overpressured and mistreated. Caregivers is tired of giving the care. They tired of it. Everybody is at this point of walking around like this, and it heavily impacts our children. Children are the ones that end up the most hurt when parents are not taking care of themselves, when they are depressed, when they are in relationships that are over, so on and so forth. And so I created this show because I genuinely feel like through books and information, we can start to brighten some of those families who are having a hard time. We can uplift those spirits of those children who are feeling suicidal. We can encourage educators and teachers to teach the information that are going to raise stronger children. I made this show because I truly believe in the work that I do and the work that I've done for a very long time at this point. I made this show because I think that you deserve to have access to information. Information shapes lives, it changes lives. So many of us are operating and we don't even know how or why. We don't know what we're doing. There's no intentionality. We're kind of following a flock. And so this show was to say, hey, when it comes to grief, here's what you do for your child, and here's some books to help them through it. Hey, When it comes to effective communication, children need to know how to speak up for themselves and the people around them. Well, what about nonverbal children? Here are some alternative means for communication. Hey, when it comes to self-esteem or bravery, here are some things that you can try and do. Here's how to get your child to be more organized. Here's how to get your child to be more empathetic. Here's how to get your child that lets people run all over them have more boundaries, and talk about consent. I have went through every single topic I could think of when it comes to impacting that child, from missing a parent because the child's parent is in prison or has left due to immigration, all the way down to homelessness. For the last 52 weeks, I have given information because information is enough to help so many people. And with these resources and these platforms like we have today, I feel like if we know something, we should say something. We need to stop being so concerned about profits and start being more concerned about people. And that's what inspired this show. Let's keep growing. Who is this episode for? You a mama, you a grandma, you a teacher, you an educator, you a school counselor, a guidance counselor, you a social worker. If you have any child in your life, this show is for you. If you're thinking about having a child in your life, this show is for you. If you had a child in your life and you lost them for whatever reason, I'm so sorry to hear that. This show is for you too. This show is for the people who are directly responsible for raising other people. That's who this show is for, and that's who this episode is for. The Teacher Lady Reads is dedicated to children. It's the fun, colorful book section of the show, but the other episodes are for the parent because there is only so much I can do from the screen. My goal is to empower you to be able to empower them. So if I listed you in that category, you are in the right place, and I hope that you continue to listen to this episode, okay? Now, let's talk about it. What are my credentials that qualifies me to speak? Well, let's back it all the way up. My name is Erica Burrell, and I am from San Francisco, California. My first credential, before we get to all the fancy ones, it's my life experience. I am from Potrero Hill Projects. I am from the Tenderloin community. I emancipated out of the foster care system. I have lived in group homes. I now live in a gorgeous house. I have been homeless. I've been in a car. I've been outside walking around till the day comes up. My life experiences are probably the first thing that qualifies me to create this show. When you have such a wide variety of experiences, both good and traumatic, it allows you to branch out the way that your brain thinks. It allows you to problem solve and critically think in a way that other people cannot do. Now, I will be honest and say, I ain't want all them experiences. And if I could just critically think a little bit less and not have had them, that would have been fine with me. But we're here now, and that pain has to mean something. So the first thing that qualifies me is my life experiences. I have been to 9 different countries. I've been to almost every continent. I haven't hit like Australia yet. I've traveled. I've just done so much in such a small amount of time. I am 33 years old. And I believe in that time period, because I've helped so many people, because I've traveled so much, I've done so much, I've felt so much, I've experienced so much, I'm a survivor of so much. I have so much to share. That is the first thing that qualifies me. The next thing that qualifies me is my educational experience. So this is the degrees that so many people seem to care so much about. My first degree is from San Francisco State University, and I have a BA in sociology, a bachelor's of arts in sociology. I graduated top of my class. Hey, I'm smart. But what that taught me, that social science degree taught me, is that all the things that I feel around racism and stereotypes, around cultural identity, they had all of these scientific names. Like all of these fancy doctors had studied what it was that I felt. And that was really special for me. Now, I'm still paying off that degree, which I feel like is unfair. I go study racism while experiencing racism, and I got to pay for it. But we're here now, and it was very beneficial. So I have that degree. Then I have a dual master's degree from Arizona State University. So I have a degree in elementary education as well as special education. Okay. And those are master level degrees. Both of those two, top of my class. Hey, I'm smart. And then in addition to that, I have so many certifications. I'm NACE certified. I opened a school. I've helped to build and reshape schools in terms of their cultural departments and so much more. So that is the educational part of me. I got a bunch of certificates. I have a bunch of degrees. Then you know about some of my personal experiences. Now, in terms of me being book smart and street smart, I have a lot of work experience. So job experience, being on the job and helping people. Let's talk about it. Today, I am the executive director overseeing an elementary school in a very impoverished area. Okay. And so what that means is I do the fundraising to support the school where the district won't show up. I make sure to hire staff who are going to be able to work with those children who have severe trauma. I mean, I work with children who just got here. They're refugees. I work with children who are Black, who are Indian, who are Native American, all sorts of races. I work with children who have experienced and witnessed homicides. I have worked with children, and when I say experience, I mean I've worked with children and then they've been killed. I've worked with children and then they've committed suicide. And so that is a lot of the work that I do. A lot of my experience in terms of my work experience is working with the children that nobody else can touch. Nobody else can reach them. The ones that are so hardened because of all that they've seen that it is hard to even get through and have a conversation. I work with the throwaway babies. And part of that is probably because I was a throwaway baby, but that is my go-to. That baby that won't sit down and do their work, the one that's in class cursing everybody out, the one that's ready to throw something at somebody, the ones that seem so angry and jaded, the ones called the bullied. Those are the ones that I end up softening. And then you get a whole different child with me. And I've done that for years. I've worked with emotional disabilities. I work with children who are autistic. I've worked with children who have had ADHD, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome. I've worked with children who are in the foster care system. I've worked with children who are non-binary, who are trying to figure out who they want to be or what they are in terms of their gender identity. I've worked with children who are English language learners and we don't even speak the same language, but we gonna figure out how to communicate. I've worked with children who couldn't talk when I met them and then they started talking. I like to work with the ones that everybody else has given up on. The ones where their parents is over it, the teachers are over them. Nobody seems to think that this child is going to be as much as I know that they will be. Those are the students that I gravitate to. So today I run a school. Before I had my own school, I've also worked to create curriculum, and that is what schools teach. So I've done that work as well. I'm a special educator, and so I've had self-contained classrooms. Now, self-contained classrooms means that you have children with different disabilities in the same classroom, different ages in the same classroom in order to get specialized learning. I've also done resource and push-in work, which means as a special education teacher, I've gone into the classroom and sat with that child to try to help them. I've done a lot of mental health work and social emotional work with children. I've done preschool, elementary, middle school, high school. I will be very honest, keep me with the little ones. I'm an elementary school girly. After that, y'all got it. So I have a lot of experience. I mean, part of that is my first job, I was 12, right? So I've been working for a long time. And then growing up in the community that I was in, I also took care of a lot of other people. So again, before we get to the degrees and the fancy, awards and all of those things, I had a lot of personal experience in working with children and figured out relatively quickly that that would be the work that I would do. So Yeah, a whole lot of experience in terms of my credentials. And then I bring it all to this show. And I say, well, technically, you know, Sigmund Freud says this, but that isn't my experience watching these kids, and we shouldn't go about it like that. Or I understand that this philosopher had this theory, or this is what the textbook would say is correct. But then I get to say, from my experience watching these babies, that's not going to work. And I think that that's special. I am a person that is going to analyze the information that is being fed. I remember taking tests in college and literally answering them in the way that I knew that they would want them to be answered, but also knowing that it was wrong. So I would make a little note and I would be like, this ain't correct. And my professors would talk to me about it. Another experience that I had was Semester at Sea. That was a college I did not mention. And Semester at Sea is a study abroad program where you take classes on a ship and you sail to all these different places as you learn. I've just done a lot. And I'm not even trying to brag, but I am very proud of myself because I'm hearing it out loud and I'm like, wow. I don't have a relationship with my parents. My dad has died. My mother, as a result of multiple decisions that she's made, we don't have a relationship. And yet and still, I get to live this very full and bright light. And I think that that encourages me to want to help other people, because so many people that I grew up with who had a similar beginning did not have the same ending. And my life is not over, but, in terms of where they currently are. So that's some of my credentials. I know I'm missing a bunch of stuff. I'm an author and illustrator. I have 9 children's books as we're speaking. I have other ones, but I haven't gotten to illustrate them and put them out yet. I do the most. I do the most all the time. And those are some of the things that qualifies me. Okay, let's keep going. What beliefs about parenting did I have to unlearn? Oh my gosh, so many. So here's the thing about being a person that kids always gravitate to. I thought when I had a child, piece of cake, right? Like I can teach a classroom with 35 kids. One of them could be deaf. One of them could be blind. One of them could be in a wheelchair. One of them could be, throwing stuff and all over the place and yelling. Like I could handle it. I got it, right? I could take them all to a field trip, no problem. Then when it comes to my kid, I'll be stuck. And I'll be like, what happened? I have so much experience. I'm so good with kids. Why is it when it comes to my own, I am so overwhelmed and stressed out? And I think the first belief that I had to unlearn is that I would know how to parent that child before I even met them. I am a planner. And I had everything laid out for Addison's birth. I knew how I wanted to dress her. I knew what we would do in terms of the activities we were going to do. I knew my birth plan in terms of I wanted an at-home water birth. I had everything laid out, coordinated, organized. And when I tell you the only thing that went as planned was her being here. That was it. I was married. That one is planned as well. That was pretty much it. The girl was almost 2 months early. Every complication I could possibly have, I had when I was pregnant. The activities that I thought she would love, she don't want to do. The ones that she loves, I'm not really interested in. That child, she is her own person. And what I had to learn was to love her for who she is, not who I thought she would be. I had a very clear expectation of what it would mean to be a mother, and Addie rocked every bit of that. And I think the beginning of parenting was so difficult, postpartum aside, and all of those things, because I wanted my child to be different than what she was. You are going to have to unlearn the same thing. Your baby is a human being and they have their own likes, their own fears, their own way of doing things, their own way of speaking. They are unique. You were the vessel that got them here. Or maybe you're an adoptive parent or a grandparent, but you do not get to decide what their personality is and who they are. That is the first thing I recommend that you unlearn when it comes to parenting. See that child for who they are, not who you think they should be. And I will tell you from experience, that is hard to do. Let's keep growing. Where have I gotten parenting wrong, and what did those mistakes teach me? Baby, I've gotten so much of parenting wrong. I've gotten a lot of parenting wrong. Addie is a twin. And her brother, Amari, did not make it. And so I started her pregnancy with 2 children, and I ended with her being premature and having to go into the NICU. Now, what this experience caused to happen, like what this resulted in, was me being this helicopter parent. Like, I did not want Addie to do too much of anything. I didn't want her to climb too high. I didn't want her to go into the ocean water. I didn't want her messing with too much sand. Like, I was overbearing when it came to parenting as this way of protection. But that's not protection. That is paranoia, and that is putting this burden on this child, and that they don't deserve it. Like, they don't deserve to have to tiptoe around so that you feel safe. They don't deserve to have to suppress themselves so that you feel okay. And I didn't recognize in the beginning that I was even doing that. I was not aware of it. And so one of the mistakes, I guess, that I made, and I wouldn't say it was a mistake because it was a decision, and it was a conscious decision. So it's weird because it was a conscious decision to be a helicopter parent. Like, I'm going to make sure she's safe. I don't want her getting hurt. I don't want her falling too hard. I like all of these kind of control mechanisms. I did not understand the why behind it. It wasn't until later in life that I understood that my control around my daughter in the beginning of her life was the direct result of fear from losing her brother. And that was a decision that was made that I wish I would not have made, and I'm glad that I am no longer making. Today, Addie gets to make her own mistakes. She gets to fall down and get back up, and we get to clean the womb. She gets to feel the ocean water and explore. And although I am still a parent that prioritizes safety, I always will. It's no longer from this place of trauma and fear of losing her like it was in the beginning. Look at how you parent and why. Another thing, that was true for me at first was because me and my mother's relationship is so strained. I was purposely parenting the opposite from my mom. Like, I would literally think of what my mom would do and then do the opposite. And that's not fair because my mother is brilliant in her own way. She is very creative and very, very smart and intelligent. And so for you to just be making decisions again out of trauma to do the opposite because of your bad experiences with your parent, you're not actually looking at what it is you need to do or handle. Instead, you're just constantly responding and reacting. And that was another thing that I had to look at. Let's keep growing. What advice do I no longer give and why? It's not advice that I no longer give, but I did used to make the comment that the child is a huge reflection of the parents. That is not true. That is not true. I promise it's not true. I see videos of all y'all still saying it's true. It's not. You can have a child raised with both parents in a very healthy and loving community and home, and they can still make decisions that land them in really bad places. You know, I work in an area that is overwhelmed by drugs and addiction, and one of the things that I have learned going through trainings and talking to those people on those streets is that some of them had great homes. Some of them made one bad decision and are now full-blown addicted. Some of them were raised with their parents. Some of their parents are still looking for them, trying to get them help. And so one of the pieces of information that I used to hold true, that I no longer hold true, is that child is a direct reflection of their parents because it takes away from them their choices, their identity, and their individuality. Let's keep growing. What do I do when I feel like my child is ungrateful or has a horrible attitude? I think the first thing to recognize is how they communicate their gratitude. Like, I have learned that my child will not always say the words thank you, but she might put on the necklace I just gave her and start dancing around, and her spirits are uplifted. And to me, that communicates appreciation. I think we have to move away from the control of the response being exactly what we think it should be. I also had this experience when I first had my daughter where, I would buy her something and her response would be so flat and it would upset me because I felt like she needed to be more grateful, and I do all this stuff and I got you all these shoes and you don't even appreciate them. And I was just so angry at her response. And here's the thing. I wanted a child who expected abundance. I wanted a child that understood that life has endless possibilities. I wanted a child with privilege, and then I got it. And now that I got it, there are times where I'm taken back by her responses. And so I think more than anything, if you are going to give only to receive that response, don't give it. Like if you're going to give a gift and you need this really big emotional response or reaction, that is not the gift to give. The next thing is, it is okay for the child to do without. Sometimes experiences are the best way for children to understand what their life can be, right? Like that's why I love natural consequences, because a natural consequence is the result of missing out because of the decision that they made. So I always give the very simple example. Hey, clean your room, and then at 3:00, I'll take you to a birthday party before I have to go to work myself. Right? 3:00 comes, that child's room is not clean. As a result, they don't get to go to the birthday party because you have to get to work. That is a natural consequence. That consequence is the result of them not making the decision they were supposed to make, which was to clean the room. And now they don't get to go to the birthday party. Now, the same is true for gratitude and trying to get a child to understand how much they have and the abundance within that. Sometimes they can just do without, and that doing without teaches them a lot. With here we go again with my kid, and I'll make sure that all these examples she's okay with before I post this. But one of the things with Addie is she's very active. And she breaks a pair of glasses, it feels like every 2 weeks. And her glasses are very expensive because she has such a unique prescription. And I was feeling like you didn't care about your glasses. Then I realized in talking to my husband, that's not true. You just expect to have another pair of these break. So your mindfulness is not all the way there. You get to be wild and flip and jump and cartwheel and know that if your glasses break, another pair is coming. So after the last pair of glasses broke, what I decided was, well, you'll get another pair when they come in the mail. I was buying 2 or 3 backup pairs so that as soon as they broke, I could hand her a new one that night, and I stopped doing that. What took place the first time she broke her glasses and she could not see for those 2 weeks while I ordered them regular shipping time was the discomfort of understand, oh my gosh, if I break my glasses, I'm not going to be able to see. And there was an appreciation and a gratitude in her newest pair that I have never seen before. That's how I recommend you shift your child's attitude. There is no need to demand for them to say thank you. Thank you in and of itself is baseless. It has nothing, right? It is what we want, or what we're looking for is that emotion of gratitude for that child to feel appreciative for our sacrifices. And for me, the natural consequences are going to get them there every time. Let's keep growing. Oh, this is a hard one, and I've worked with parents with this one. And the question is, what if I don't like my child, or what if I hate being a parent but still have to raise them? This is a very real reality for more people than you would think. There are a lot of people who have confided in me around not liking their children. And I think the first thing to understand is that children are people with personalities. You gave birth to them, or you adopted them, or you're raising them. But they are individual people. And because they're individual people we do not like. There are coworkers we do not like. There's a mailman we might not like. That happens. And the same is true, sadly, for us and our children. There are times where we do not like our child. We don't get along with them personality wise. We don't understand them. And it feels like they don't understand us. And here's what you're going to do: you're going to raise them to the best of your ability because you're here now. You've given birth to that child, or you've adopted that child, or you're raising that child, and that's what you've committed to. You are going to raise them with strategy. You need a plan. Okay, now at the time that you're seeing this, I don't know if I'll still be available, but I do have services available on my website for things like this because you need a strategy. What time can they go to school? What after school program can they go to? When we do spend time together, what is an activity that we both enjoy? What should we talk about when we're talking so that that tension does not build up? Is counseling or therapy an option? Why am I so resentful towards my child? Am I grieving the moments where I was single, or when I was alone, or when I didn't have to find a babysitter in order to go on vacation? There is a plan that has to be put in place so that you can raise that child with as little harm as possible, so that your feelings of disdain or dislike towards your child do not impact their self-esteem in a way in which it will if you are not intentional about how you're going about it. This is not something you can be passive on and just kind of let happen until they're 18. You're going to have to put together a strategy and a plan for raising that child with love, even if you do not like them. And like I said, make sure or go see if I'm offering that as a service at this time. And if not, you want to find somebody who is. You want to find a parent educator, a child advocate, somebody who can sit down with you without judgment, because who needs any more of that, to say, hey, this is how we're going to get through this very difficult situation so that that child can be still raised in love, and so that you can understand what has to be done in order to make that happen. Let's keep growing. What do parents do with guilt, regret, or shame? That has a lot to do with whether or not they've addressed these situations, because most parents eat, most parents sleep, most parents gamble, most parents have inappropriate relations, most parents are glued to their phones. When we do not address the things that are hurting us, that are bothering us, that have traumatized us, we escape. And we escape in multiple ways. And so what I recommend when it comes to guilt, regret, or shame is to make sure that you have a counselor, a therapist, a community of girlfriends, some ways to be actively combating against these feelings so that they do not consume you. Which brings me to another question that is extremely real, and one that I also have experiences with. How do I parent without community? This is a hard one. You know, when it comes to boundaries, when you decide you want to raise your child a certain way and other people can't respect those boundaries, you often end up with very few people in your circle, and that can be painful and it can be lonely. Now, I always say, if the person can't respect me and they're not going to respect my child in the way that I need them to, whether they're a grandparent, a grandfather, whatever, it does not matter. They cannot be in our lives, because if you can't respect me, you can't have me. But what that leaves you with is a lack of community, because the community that you had access to was not what you needed. So here is what you do. You do what you need to do in order to be as okay as possible. That means if that daycare opens at 6 a.m., and you can leave them there until 6 p.m. and you know that they're safe and cared for, you do that. That means you get a gym membership with child care so that they can go and play while you work out and take a minute to yourself. That means you're going to get on these meetup groups and go meet other moms in the in the area. You're going to join the parent teacher association. You're going to really get to know that community so that ultimately you can build trust and you can build community. In the meantime, you are going to strategically parent. That means you're going to make sure your child is safe. That means they're going to sleep in their own bed because you need that time to yourself at night. That means in the morning, they're going to get on the school bus, even though they prefer you to drive them to school, because it would be better for you to not have to go the opposite way before you get to work. That might mean that you look for a stay-at-home job so that you don't have as much commuting. You're going to have to change the lens of how you parent because you do not have community, whether you don't have community on purpose because people would not respect what it was that you had to say, or you've just never had it because of your personal situations or circumstances. It is difficult to be so alone, but I know that you can do it, and it is going to take strategy and intentionality to be able to do so. That child's schedule should be packed. And in those packed schedules, of course, you want to make sure they're safe, but you need to give yourself as much time as possible to exist without that baby asking you a million things. All of the shaming on social media is truly on my last nerve. This argument and debate on whether or not you should leave your kid after school until 6 p.m. or how early you should be dropping them off and how poor that is and, how sad for that child, when the reality is we didn't all get the same deck of cards, okay? And the way in which you play them is going to be extremely important. So you do what you need to do to be okay, because should you have a mental breakdown, that's it. Like, that heavily impacts your kid. And now we're dealing with other issues. So that is what you are going to do. And hold true to your boundaries. If you're not comfortable putting your child around a person, that is a telltale sign. Do not do it. Let's keep growing. When can I introduce my boyfriend to my children? When he ain't finna be your boyfriend no more? When y'all are in the process of a marriage? I am a strong believer that having people in and out these children's lives, it is very difficult. It is hard on the child. Children grow attachment very quickly. If they're not going to be consistent, it's not time. If you are in the talking phase, it's not time. If you're trying to figure out whether or not you like them, it's not time. You introduce them when you're trying to figure out whether or not it's going to work for you to be as serious as you're going to be. Like, that is the step before you get engaged, or the step before marriage, okay? Because until then, y'all just playing, and y'all can play without that child. Protect children. Don't bring nobody around your baby that you don't know very, very well and very, very clearly, that you have not done background searches on and deep dives. You're going to become a investigator, okay? And you're going to spend time with them, a lot of time with them. And then right before things become this huge commitment, that's when you introduce your children. Let's keep growing. Gentle parenting discipline. What is gentle parenting and what is it not? Gentle parenting is a concept that was coined by a lady. Here's what people have misconstrued about gentle parenting. Let me just get to the point. Gentle parenting is not a new thing. I hear so much of this new age parenting ain't working and blah, blah, blah. Gentle parenting simply means that you respect your child enough to allow them to have a voice and agency in their decisions. We're not going to scream at them, because the truth is they don't need to be screamed at in order to listen and follow instructions. It's emotional regulation and it's respect for your child. It's really simple. It's not as complicated as everybody is making it seem, okay? Now, gentle parenting became popular recently, but if you go back to Native American parenting practices, if you go back to some African parenting practices before slavery, you will see that gentle parenting and examples of gentle parenting have been around for hundreds of years. This idea of beating your children is Western American and new. Gentle parenting is the original parenting, allowing children to explore and have their voice, allowing children to hold conversations, effectively communicate, all of those things. It's not new. Beating your child and hitting your child is a result oftentimes of colonization and of slavery. We used to hit our children while we were being hit. because it was a safety issue. If you make too much noise and this person comes out this house, we're all going to get hurt. So now I have to discipline you in this very aggressive way for survival. We don't need to do that anymore. Gentle parenting is simply respectful parenting. There's no need to learn about all the rules of it. You just parent with love. Like, I don't even do the title of gentle parenting. I just parent with love. I parent in a way that I would have wanted to be parented. I talk to my child in a way in which I would want to be talked to. And I take accountability when I make mistakes or I do things that don't feel good for her. And that is how you should be parenting. You should be looking at it through the approach or the lens of how you would want to be treated as a child. When you spilled that cup of milk, was it okay for you to get popped in the back of your neck just because you made a mistake? Absolutely not. So now when your child spills that cup of milk, you say, okay, go get that mop. Let's clean it up. No worries. No big deal. And then you allow them to clean up their mess. You allow them to hold conversations. Gentle parenting ain't nothing but a fancy way of saying treat your child with some love, some kindness, and some respect. Let's keep growing. Is it okay to whoop my child? No. Keep your hands off that baby. You would not want nobody hitting you when you made a mistake. And what I say is, parent to child whoopings are the only form of violence that are socially acceptable. When a police officer hits somebody, it's wrong. When a spouse hits another spouse, it's domestic violence. When it comes to a parent and they hit the child, it's okay. It's their child. It's discipline. If you cannot teach a child something without hitting them, you got a lot of work to do in your personal life. That's a problem. That is some serious issues. And I know that we have normalized hitting children and pinching them and popping them and all of these things. But if you truly think about it, and I'm not judging you, I grew up getting whooped. Everybody I knew got whooped. It was a normal part of life, but it's not normal. And now you got to do all of this healing from the mistreatment that you experienced. But just think about it. You're in the office and you're learning how to do the reports and the files. You make a mistake and your supervisor haul off and pop you on the back of your neck. You ain't learned how to do the files correctly. You didn't learn what the issue was. You're just nervous and on edge and scared. And so often we want our children to just comply, just get in line, shut up and do what I say. But then when they get older, guess what? They're going to look for somebody to tell them what to do, how to walk, how to talk. They're not going to be free in their expression because you have raised them in this way to need somebody to tell them what to do and where to go and how to behave. Otherwise, they'll be hurt. It is dangerous to raise your child just beating on them and just hitting them. And it's not necessary. There are so many alternatives instead of hitting that work because they teach the child. What you want is behavior modification. That's what you're looking for. When you're hitting your child because they didn't clean their room when they said they was going to clean the room. When you're hitting your child because you got a phone call from the school and they was acting up. What you're desiring is the behavior to change. There is something about that child and what they're doing that is upsetting you, and that's what you want to change. But you hauling off and hitting them, even if it appears like it's fixing the issue, you are causing a bigger one. Not necessary. Let's do something different. This one says, a lot of times I hit out of anger. Is there something that I can do? You need to regulate and control your emotions. That's what has to happen. Our bodies often have telltale signs before we get to the point of hitting. Like there is something in our nervous system. We get to shaking. Our skin turns hot. There's something that tells us, hey, you're angry. You're upset. And when that sign comes, you're going to go take a deep breath. You cannot discipline while you are furious, while you are raging. That is not the time to discipline. You're going to leave that mess. If it's glass, you're going to make sure the children are away from the glass. And you're going to calm all the way down first. Then you're going to come back to that child and you're going to say, hey, I told you to stop playing with that vase. You understood me because you repeated the instructions that I gave you. I told you to stop playing with the ball in the house and to stop messing with the vase. You chose to not listen, and as a result, this glass broke, and I'm very upset about that. And because I'm this upset, I don't have the energy or the desire to take you to the park. So you need to go to your space while I take a minute and calm down, and then we will talk about it. That's it. It's that simple. You get to be human in your parenting. You get to be pissed off. You get to be frustrated. You get to be upset. But the way in which you express those emotions are very important because it teaches that child what is okay and what is not okay when it comes to communicating with them. You a grown man, you're that child's dad, it's a little girl, and they do something you didn't want them to do, and then all of a sudden you hit them. Now they're married, and they do something their husband didn't want them to do, and now all of a sudden their husband hits them. What's the difference? You are so sending messages to your child even when you don't realize it. So calm yourself and then go to discipline. Children can have consequences. They should have consequences. I done told you 32 times, stop playing with this ball. The ball goes bye-bye. No more ball. Uh-oh, I told you. I explained this to you. You understood. Oh, you can cry, but you can cry in your space because I shouldn't have to hear it when you made that decision. And so learning to parent from a place of authority, not dictatorship, is going to change your life. Let's keep growing. How do I play with my child when I hate pretend play or don't enjoy playing? You let them lead. Children have very beautiful imaginations. So you're going to do things like put out some chalk and lay down on the concrete. Let them draw around you. Let them put bunny ears. You can tell them things like make me into a bunny, make me into a lion, and just let them color while you exist in the space. You can play doctor. Lay on the couch, get them a little doctor toy set, tell them you're not feeling well, and let them fix you. There are so many ways to let that child take lead when it comes to playing that a lot of times all you have to do is show up. That's it. You showing up and being next to them is going to help a lot. Okay. Even having markers out and papers out and saying, draw me a flower, and then putting your body shape in the shape of a flower and freezing until they finish that picture. The action is very minimal on your part, but they're having fun. So you don't have to like playing. You don't have to like a lot of things when it comes to parenting, but there are hacks that are going to help to get us through it anyway. Here's another one. How do I show affection when I don't like hugs and kisses? Yeah, I understand this one a lot. And what I would say is you do show affection. You don't show affection in a way that is traditional for most parents, but you do show affection. Your affection might be cooking them special meals or attending their school dance or plays or what have you, but you absolutely have love inside of you. It just looks different than what people expect it to look like. Now, in terms of having a child that is clingy, when you don't like all of those extra touches and kisses, you do what you can. That's what you do. You hug them in the morning, you give them a kiss on the forehead, and then you give yourself space. If y'all are curled up on a couch and you find yourself getting too worked up, I've had times where I'm watching a movie with Addie. She wants to be right under me, and I don't want nobody else touching me right now. I done been touchy all day. Kids at school, touchy, husband, touchy. Everybody want to touch me. It's too much. So What you do is you say, hey, we can finish the movie, but actually, I want to stretch out. Can you lay this way and I lay this way? You can get them a teddy bear and they can snuggle with that. Again, hacks. You're still in a space. You're still watching the movie, but you're not as overstimulated because you don't have a kid right under you. You cannot give what you do not have. If that child so badly wants to hug and snuggle and you literally can't, baby, do not push yourself to the point of breaking. You show up as much as you can, and then when it's done, it is done, and that is okay. What if my child is overweight or obese and I don't know how to help without shaming? Okay, this one is layered. First thing we're going to do is we're going to keep our baby off the internet. There is a few children that are going around the internet who are larger bodies, and their parent is making money monetizing them eating, and all of the comments are extremely mean and cruel with diet recommendations for a 7-year-old. And we're not going to do that. So the first thing is to make sure that you are protecting their emotions by reducing bullying, because that is a form of bullying. That is cyberbullying. You put a video up on the internet that you know is going to get a cruel response, and then you let it get a cruel response for some money. That is wrong. So that's the first thing that comes to mind. The next thing is, this is a medical doctor question. You're going to go to a medical doctor, a nutritionist, and you're going to figure out a plan for your child if they are truly unhealthy. The weight on a scale is not the only indicator of whether or not your child is healthy. Right now, you're looking at my body, and it's a big body. I'm chubby, always have been, always will be. My cholesterol, solid. Blood pressure, ain't high. No diabetes, can move, can stretch, can run, all of the things that you would assume I would have because of the size of my body, I do not have. You might say, well, you're young. True, but there are people who are younger than me that have all of these issues. So for me, it's not the weight on the scale. It's the way in which my body moves. It's my energy level. It's how I look in terms of the bags under my eyes. These are the things that'll tell me, girl, get you some vitamin C, get you some more rest. And so I don't want you to obsess over the weight on that scale. Children are different sizes. They grow and they change all the time. Instead, we're going to focus on their actual health. Now, shaming, there's no need for you to even comment on their body. If you want them to eat more vegetables, give them more vegetables. You want them to move more and work out more? Move more and work out more. There's no need for you to call your child names, shame them, or bully them into changing their body, because all that's going to do is cause a bunch of low self-esteem and eating disorders. Focus on the thing you want to improve, not the way in which it looks on your child. And watch your words, because they oftentimes become that child's inner voice. And I'm so tired of having children become adults and now they got to heal from that childhood, okay? The next question is it okay to sleep with my child? I'm not even giving you a safety answer. I'm giving you an answer in terms of your mental health. Do not have your child sleep in the bed with you if you are not prepared to consistently have them sleep in that bed with you. Now, if that's your comfort level and you got the guardrails up and it's okay, you're good with them sleeping on one side of the bed and you sleeping on the other side and, whatever, great, whoop you do, that's great. But if not, if you're doing it one night because they had a bad dream, but then the next day you want your bed back, you are confusing that child and you are going to start something that you are not prepared to keep going, okay? You need to make decisions that are going to be consistent. So for me and my bed, that's for me and my husband. We're not sharing that bed with our daughter. You have a bad dream. Let's pray about it. I'm going to go tuck you back in because I'm going back to sleep myself. Here is why. That is the space that is allocated for me and my spouse. That is not their space. And it is important that you have those clear lines, because mentally speaking, you're now resting and you want the bed to yourself. But here goes your child at 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 a.m., snuggling on up, and you're too exhausted to get them back out your bed, and you create a disaster. Now, if your child is currently coming to your bed left and right and you've sent them back to their room, what you're going to have to do is get extremely disciplined about putting them back into their bed. For that first about month, it is exhausting. Children, oh my gosh, they have the ability to drain you. And they know that. Children are very manipulative. They're very smart. So when they come and they crawl into your bed, you're going to get up and you're going to take them back to their bed. They come back to your room. You're going to get up, take their hand, good night, back to their bed. Good night, back to their bed. You're going to take them back to their bed. You're going to keep doing that. Okay. You're going to be exhausted. You might want to try this on a spring break because you're going to be tired, but you are actively breaking the habit that your bed is a place that they can go. And that habit only started in the first place because at some point it was okay with you. So you need to make the decision of what is and what is not in terms of your home and your comfort level. Be very clear about it. Reroute that child to their bed, and eventually they're going to get to an age to where they should be sleeping with themselves, that they, are facing those fears, those nightmares, those darknesses, and having that time to themselves, because children also need time to themselves. They don't need to be under somebody 24/7. They need time for themselves as well. Now, in terms of creating a comfortable environment in that child's room, a routine is going to help a lot. At nighttime, having them dinner and then a bath and a book, something simple, again, that you can be consistent with, is going to help. Getting characters or blankets of, people that they like to make their room feel more homey is going to help. And then having a dim night light. We want to try to turn off the TV, but things like a sound box or a night light is also going to help that child to sleep. But we're going to redirect. You want your bed back? You're going to have to get it back. I know you can do it. You got here in the first place. Get that bed back. Put that child back where they belong in their space, wherever that might be, and enjoy your you time. For a lot of parents, the only time that they get to themselves is nighttime. How much screen time is too much? Well, I don't have a number for this. I think when screen time starts to completely consume that child, when that is their only activity, that's the only thing that they want to do, it's the only thing they're interested in, it's time to reduce it. We definitely want to have children doing other things, more physical activity, exploring in different ways. And so just be mindful, and I would say more so watch their behavior than an actual clock type system. Another thing that you can do as well is you can allocate so much time for so many chores or so much studying. So, they've come home, and after 2 hours of maybe cleaning their room up or laundry or whatever the task is you have in your household, at that point, maybe they can have 30 minutes on a video game. And so I would more so say look at the lifestyle of your child as well as your mental health. Again, if you don't have the ability to argue, to fight with sometimes you're going to have to take what people see as the easy route. There is a balance in parenting. You're going to do the best you can, but that includes for you. So if it's that Saturday and you cannot take them to that park and you don't have the energy and they just going to be home on a TV for that one Saturday, they'll live. The real question is, will you? Because if you are at your wit's end, you are not good for anybody. When should my child have a TikTok or Instagram? When they old, when they grown. There's no reason why a child should have a social media. You can't convince me otherwise. Even for the channels that are children, that should be managed by parents. We cannot control For You pages. And For You pages has a lot of inappropriate images and just really weird and odd takes that our children are now exposed to because they got a TikTok. So again, I'm not saying they can't make videos. I'm not even saying you can't post or make them an account, but then themselves having an Instagram or TikTok account, baby, it's not necessary. Should I post my child online? With some caveats. I think the first thing is understanding that online is forever. So respecting their privacy, their boundaries, never posting anything that is embarrassing or too personal. Some of us are sharing these super sentimental personal moments of children that they might not want shown themselves. Some of us are sharing our children bathing and just super inappropriate things. Some of us are showing our children in distress and in anger and in sadness. And so, you want to have a list of questions before you post. Is this something that's appropriate? If my child were to get older, from what I know about them, is this something that they would be okay that I've shared? Is this something that I might regret in a month or two? Explore the questions before you push that post button and ask yourself what you're posting it for. This is a big one. What is the difference between code switching and masking? Why do you insist on both? Okay, so code switching is essential for survival for a lot of people, okay? Especially my people of color. Code switching has to do with the idea of changing how you speak or respond to situations because of where you are. Okay, so understanding how society views things and then fitting yourself to fit that mold as much as possible. Now, there's only so much code switching you can do. If the person doesn't like you because you're Black, they're not going to like you no matter how much you code switch. But I do think that it is important when it comes to code switching for people to understand how society views you. Like, that is important. And we try to say that it's not important, but it is. It is important. It's important for you to understand societal norms, community norms for that area, how people perceive you. And now you have the information. If you want to say, forget it, I'm going to do what I want to do, great. But you need to know, because if you don't know, it's dangerous. Now, masking is you're autistic and you don't want other people to, feel uncomfortable with some ways in which you think or who you are naturally. And so you kind of shift into this whole different person. I would say the biggest difference is that for me, code switching is not specific to being neurodivergent. Code switching is literally the ability to get a job or a house, start a business, and communicate with other people at the bank, and so on and so forth, in a way in which they will feel comfortable. Code switching is embedded in racism. There's no way around that. And so making sure that you understand that this is how I'll be perceived, these are the word choices that I might want to choose because of the space that I'm in, is very important. Masking has a lot to do with you are neurodivergent and you don't want other people to think that you're strange or weird or odd. And although it is a form of survival, they are different. And they're both important. I think the most powerful thing about both of them is to understand that you're doing them. If you're masking, you need to know that you're masking so that that mask can come off. And if you're code switching, you need to understand that this is my strategy for this situation, but this is not who I am. These things really hurt my feelings because you want to just show up in the world. And I am just getting to a point that I can just show up in the world. I don't do a whole lot of code switching. I don't do much masking. I get to just exist. I get to speak how I speak. I'm going to mispronounce a word. I'm going to say a word wrong. I'm a reading specialist. I don't even think I mentioned that in my experiences, but my background is really teaching children how to read. And I be me saying stuff all the time, okay? So I say all of this to say that it took a very long time for me to get to a place of security. Security is the key word. I had to get to a place of a security before I could turn off some of the code switching and some of those things, okay? And I have to consistently remind myself that I am enough, I am bright, I am powerful. And if that person can't see my worth, then that is their fault, not my own. Let's keep growing. What do I do if my child told me that they're gay and I believe being gay is a sin? Baby, you love your child. If your child is gay and they're not hurting anybody, they get to be gay. They get to exist as a gay person. It's gay people. That it is what it is. I think this idea of it being a sin or them being doomed to some bad place because they're gay is very hurtful and painful. And you need to make the decision if that's the hill you're going to die on. Like, are you going to lose the relationship with your child because they live their life in a way in which you don't deem acceptable? I'm sure it's all sorts of things that you've done in your parenting that they don't deem as acceptable. Unless your child is hurting somebody, which will have nothing to do with their gayness, it will have to do with them hurting somebody. You shouldn't be concerned. Unless they're being hurt, you should not be concerned. They're gay, and you're going to have to move past your discomfort. And we're all human, trying to figure out human experiences, trying to survive life, trying to explore and find our own identity. And so love your child because they're your child. Show up for your child because they're your child, because you care for them, because you care about them. And if they trust you enough to tell you about their sexuality, thank them for sharing the information and figure out how you support them. How do you help them and how do you show up? You don't have to agree with every single thing your child does in order to be a phenomenal parent and in order to love them, which brings me to the next question. Isn't that enabling? No, it's not enabling. Your child made a decision about their sexuality. Some people say they don't choose, it just happens. I don't know. I'm not gay. I can't speak from that lens. But what I can say is it would not be enough for me to not have a relationship with my kid, for me to not love my kid, for me to not get to know my kid's boyfriend or whatever it is, for me to not figure out the accurate pronouns and what they're comfortable with and binary and the colors of the rainbow and the whole nine. You love your child, so love your child. Don't let their sexuality be enough to now end that relationship because you want to be judgmental. What do I do when I'm co-parenting with someone who parents very differently? This is a hard one. This is a very difficult one because that is the reality for so many people. And what you're going to do is the only thing that you can do, which is control your household. You cannot control the household of the other person. That is the first thing you're going to have to realize. The way in which they do things, conduct things, their belief systems, you cannot control that. You cannot change that. And so you're going to focus on your home. You're going to make sure your child is safe. You're going to make sure your child understands what you expect from them, how you expect for them to carry themselves, the rules of your home, and so on and so forth. And then they're going to go to the other parent's house and they're going to have a different experience. The only way this becomes an issue is if it's a safety thing. If you don't hit your child and then on the other side they're being beat, or if you make sure that your child has proper clothing and food and things like that, and then they go to the other house and they're being grossly mistreated, at that point you need to get a social worker involved, courts involved, and get somebody to oversee those visits. But if it's just parenting practices, there is nothing you can do. You're going to have to let it go. Let's keep growing. What if grandparents or in-laws won't respect my boundaries? Well, you only have control over yourself. So the question is, what are your limits? What are you willing to tolerate? Because again, just like the first question, you can't control them. If you tell them, hey, I don't want my child having whatever, red dyes, and then as soon as you leave, they're opening up strawberry soda, well, now what? Now you have a decision to make on how you're going to go about raising your child with them and what that relationship looks like. Maybe it looks like they only have supervised visits. And when it's time for that play date, you're there too. Maybe it looks like no contact at all because everything you try to do or say or implement, they're coming behind you and changing that. That is something that you're going to have to decide for yourself. But what I will say is when you're analyzing these things, your co-parent pissing you off and not listening, your parents not respecting your boundaries or going around the rules that you set forward, your boss not listening to the things that you put in place in order to make sure that you were okay. That list continues. You cannot control the other person. I think that was the number one thing that I had to learn. I cannot control any of these people. So I either am going to have to accept what is, how it is, and adjust from there, or say no thank you and give it all back. you're going to have to do the same. So much of parenting, so much of life is a bunch of decisions. You're making a bunch of decisions all the time. As you're making these decisions, you're going to have to live with them. And so you're going to have to analyze, is it worth leaving my child with these grandparents and they discipline by way of whipping? But at the same token, I don't have anyone else to watch him and get him from school. You're going to have to make that decision. You're going to have to make the decision of, wow, my child has an allergy to dairy and they keep giving them ice cream. How dangerous is that? Or how do I feel about that? But what you're not going to do is try to control that other person, because it's not going to work. I've been there. Trust me, it does not work. So you think about what your limits are, what your boundaries are, and then from there you analyze your response. Next question, I am staying married for the sake of the child. Don't do that. If that is the only reason, go ahead and print out them papers. Because here's the thing, children can sense when relationships are over. They sense that tension, all the things you think that you're hiding from them, you're not. They know it. They understand it. And you are now stopping your life to try to raise your child in this 2-parent household. And it's not fair. Life is happening right now. You're a parent, sure, but you're also an individual person. And you deserve happiness and you deserve joy. So if that relationship is over, you had a beautiful child from it, you've learned a lot, and you get to keep growing. You don't have to stay committed to something that is hurtful or painful for you because you think that it's best for your child. Because you will hear me say time and time again, what is best for you will ultimately be what is best for them. Let's keep growing. My oldest child says they feel like a third parent. Why is this harmful? Your oldest child is still a child. They didn't have kids. And I think that it's important that as you raise siblings, you raise them to be siblings. There should be no momager. There should be no older sister is the mom of the house and the second. That isn't fair to them. It's their childhood as well. And it's actively hindering them. The other thing that this does is it builds resentment because the older sibling is the one that does the disciplining, that does the cooking, the cleaning, and they start to become resentful towards the siblings that they consistently have to take care of. So you want to watch that. It's nothing wrong with asking your child for help from time to time, but it should not stop them from going to the school party or the school dance. It should not stop them from being able to get a summer job and do the things that they want to do. What are the biggest gaps and issues in our education system? This is a whole professional development in and of itself. I will say the biggest issue, which is so many issues in our country, is finances. Schools are not funded equally, and as a result, children are not educated equally. And for me, those are some of the biggest gaps. Schools in affluent area, because of property taxes, even public schools, they have more access to resources, textbooks, tenured teachers or teachers that are getting a good pension or retirement plan. And it just makes a huge difference when it comes to educating that child compared to schools that are Title I, that are in lower income communities, that are underserved. Those schools are going to experience more issues, and it just all comes down to funding. And so when it comes to the biggest gap, I would say it has to do with money. How do I build a better relationship with my child's teacher? You show up, you ask where you can volunteer, and then you respect the fact that they got 32 other babies, okay? You're mindful of their space and their time while also making sure that they know that you are part of their community and that you're willing to help them wherever possible. A lot of times a small email introduction goes a long way. Introducing your talents goes a long way. Volunteering or donating, all of these things really help because teachers are overwhelmed. And so you showing up for them is definitely going to help to build that relationship. And sadly, it often makes a difference for the quality of education your child receives. Let me expand on that. Ideally, every child would be treated the same and fair and equal on some level because I believe in equity, not equality, meaning every child gets what they need, not the same thing as everybody else. Nevertheless, let me explain to you what happens. Teachers who are not good teachers, teachers who are abusive, teachers who are mean, teachers who have bias that they don't recognize. Those teachers are more likely to mistreat students who do not have active parents. Okay? It's predatory. It is wrong. I am telling you from my experience that it is true. The best way to make sure your child is okay is to be involved in school. Join the Parent Teacher Association, volunteer in the classroom, make sure that that school understands that you are part of that community. And anytime anything comes up that sounds weird or is uncomfortable, you make sure you seek clarity from the educator your child is telling you about. All right, now I'm going to do a few questions and answers for educators. What boundaries must educators keep even when families are struggling? I really struggle with this as an educator because I think that so many educators have very empathetic kind of hearts and like we want to help. I think one of the boundaries that you're going to have to implement right away is not giving out your personal cell number. That one was a big one for me. And the way that my phone rung off the hook all the time was ridiculous. And so that's a boundary. But I would also just be mindful of what you can give and do. You know, parents might ask things like, can you donate to the GoFundMe? Or my child needs this. Can you help pay for it? And the reality is your response is going to let them know whether or not things like that are okay. And so when it comes to your boundaries, it needs to be something that you can be consistent with without overwhelming yourself. If you're not going to be able to do it consistently, similarly to how I was talking about co-sleeping, we're going to leave it alone. Now, when it comes to the emotional toll of working with children from underserved communities, you need a plan for self-care, okay? Your job is not your life. It should not be your life. I really struggled with understanding that, okay, they want to give me 5 hours a week for prep time. That's when I'm prepping. Like I never did that, right? Like I've always gone above and beyond with the lesson plans and laying everything out. And the reality is that you are human. You cannot do it all. You're going to have to self-advocate, let your principal know you need additional hours to be able to prep. You know, you cannot keep taking over this other person's lunch. You need more time, you need more support. And if you're not getting it, then honestly, you might have to find an alternative. I think so much of teaching means realizing when enough is enough and setting those boundaries in place to protect your own mental health. Which brings me to my next question. How do you know when it's time to step away from the classroom? Your attitude will let you know. Your snappiness, your frustration, your irritation, when you used to love teaching and now you despise getting up, when you're so annoyed by every single child and everything that they do, it is time for you to stop. I knew that I was going to have to change positions when I started to feel like I was drowning. I started to feel like I love the kids, but I literally cannot stand anything else. It was time for me to shift. And I made the shift to educational leadership. And so it might be that your change is just another place in the school, maybe administration or, you know, a counselor or something like that. But it also might mean that it's time to do something else. There's a lady right now going around social media talking about how she left teaching to work at Costco and how it's been so refreshing. The pay is better. The hours are more consistent. She's able to get more time with her family, no extra lesson plans, and it's just better for her at this point in her life. And so I encourage you to truly do a deep dive and analyze whether or not education in general is it for you right now, or whether education does work, but you no longer want to be in this position. Because there are a lot of positions within the school. You can even be a teacher that helps other educators if that's something that you're good at. Final thoughts. Parenting is hard. Teaching is hard. Education is hard. It's all hard. I want you to know that you are doing better than you think. And if you're concerned with how well you're doing, then you're probably doing a pretty decent job, because I've found that the people who are concerned are the ones who are actively showing up and who have a desire to do more and to do different. Okay. So I just want to say thank you. These last 52 weeks have been amazing for me. I've learned so much about the work that I want to do in the world. I have really big dreams and goals for this show, and I pray that it just grows bigger and bigger and bigger. But for now, I'm grateful that you are here. Please send it to a friend. Please share my channel. Please connect. Thank you for learning with me, for growing with me, and for being part of this book loving community. Until next time, you remember to enjoy the moment or go be a joy in the moment. Bye.